Hi, everybody. Ray McNulty here, president of SBN, National Dropout Prevention Center, and hope all of you are safe and your families are well. And I'm doing a series called Thoughtful Leadership for the New Normal, Embracing Challenges. And today, particularly, I want to talk with you about the 7 stages of leading and educating in a crisis. I know you all have been out there experiencing an incredibly challenging time. And I hope this podcast will help you think through the challenges that you're facing right now. You all know that you hear me talking about the VUCA world all the time, and you all have been part of the discussion of the VUCA world. Well, it's here, isn't it? It really is here. And we've added to the VUCA world not only volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, but we've added social distancing. And this has really created a significant challenge for us in education. And with that challenge, I want to bring you back to a quick point I make about the VUCA world, where I often talk about the fact that there are 2 types of performance that we have to focus on, tactical and adaptive. You all know the tactical is improving on the system as it is, and the adaptive is adapting to the changing world. Well, guess what? Ever since the early March period, this has become the primary. While we were working together, many of us, we've always spent time on this tactical side. It's now much more challenging because we really have to jump in and move quickly on how are we going to adapt. And with that adapting, I reached out and looked at a quote from Charles Darwin. And here's what Darwin says. He says, "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent that survive. It is the most adaptive to change. Those are the ones that survive. It's the most adaptive." And we are facing the adaptive challenge of our lifetime. Really, that's what we're facing. And the question is, how will we respond? So I dug in and I started to do some deep work on what is it like in a crisis? How do you lead in a crisis? And there are 7 stages. I'm going to share 3 on each slide and then 2. But I want you to understand the stages, and I want you to think in your head as I talk about these stages, which ones have you gone through? Which one are you stuck in right now? Because we start off with these stages of shock, denial, and anger. And when we talk about shock, right, we remember when we shut down, it was like initial paralysis, like what? And then the kind of wait and see idea of like, well, how bad will this get? And then talk to neighboring districts and figure out, what are you hearing and how are we getting there? And then it was denial, right? We have to figure out like, oh my God, we're going to be out for a while. Let's send student homes with packets. Let's arm our teachers with Zoom and let's try to keep learning going. And the way most of us, unless you were a really future-focused system, very few of us really were ready to really be future-focused. We were trying to replicate the classroom at home. And then once we kicked that in, you started fielding phone calls from frustrated parents and learning, who all of a sudden turned into learning coaches. And I mean, people were trying to figure out like, how do I make this work? And all along, you had some teachers that were really comfortable with it because they had Google Classroom set up, they could do it. But then you had many that just weren't ready to take this on. It wasn't in their wheelhouse. And that's what you have to think about. I mean, those 3 stages were the early stages, and many of you, some of you still may be stuck in that. So when we get to the next 3 stages of leading in a crisis and educating in this crisis, we get into the stages of bargaining, depression, and then testing. So you can always just think this through. Think about, this whole idea of bargaining. Like the first thing is once you left the stage of anger, it's like, how do we get online courses to put in? Who do we bargain with to get work set up in our system immediately? So that's where you hung out at that time. Then what happened was you basically started to finally realize that, look, this is going to be longer, and this is not going to be short in terms of our work, and we have got to focus on doing a better job with our kids. We can't continue this disservice. with the variety of changes between classrooms. We really just can't do that. So you leave the stage of depression. And this is where all of us in leadership try to seek out realistic solutions. We try to find experienced partners who can provide curriculum, professional development, and support. Now, this kind of work in this area, this idea of seeking those realistic solutions, really cause us to reach out to the people that have been doing this for a long time. You know, there are organizations that have been doing online learning. They've been delivering special ed online. They've been doing all these things. They know how to do it. And we have to reach out and we have to collaborate with those places. Then we get to the final two stages of leading and educating in this crisis. And with that, we go to the area of what's called acceptance and then preparation. And in all of these, you have to think, again, like this acceptance, we have to recognize that site-based learning isn't scalable in an emergency. What do I mean by that? Is maybe you have 300 teachers. They all have different things going on because we don't have a system in place that is scalable to do that kind of learning. We have little pieces of programs here and there. We have some teachers that are highly technical and trained, but it's not a system. And we really have to think about, in the face-to-face world, we have a system. We know what that system looks like. We have to design holistic, comprehensive, and proven online learning programs. We have to really focus on that. We have to focus on professional development. We have to focus on getting parents to understand their role. And it's about how do we deliver special ed? How do we deliver CTE in this world? Because look, right now, a lot of the conversations out there are this. The conversations are that we may not, in the end, we may not be open until January, or we may have more series of opportunities where we're gonna have to reach out and get into this kind of learning. So we leave the acceptance stage, we move towards really in the acceptance stage, we have to recognize we're really talking about really more personalized learning in the future. That's really what this is all about. And so we get to the point of, in the period of time between now and the fall, we can really operate with well-designed research-based programs, but it's going to take special kinds of training for us to do this and special ways to work in the future at creating a system that is prepared not just for emergencies, but to be able to switch this on and off at any time. So when that school year, begins, we're far better off than we have been this year. Now, this is not an easy thing to accomplish, but let me show you one slide of a district, a very large district that has been engaging in this kind of work for a while. So this slide, and I've covered the district shall remain nameless, but I want you to see this is the programs that the program that they use to engage their students in both a mixture of online and face-to-face, kind of a hybrid model, but their students are engaged all the time, every week, while the teacher's around. They're engaged with this online model. Teachers are there to help coach. It's a part of the function of the system. Now look at what happened. So here's pre-closure. This is the district operating. Now here they went off to spring break, and all of a sudden, the system shut down. This is the post-closure. Look, it took them about 4 days to get the system where, look at this. Look at the performance now. This is just in March, but look at the performance of March and early April of this district. You see that? It's not that different from here. You will note there's some differences. They got the Friday fall off and the Thursday we're going to get ready to fall off. But you have to remember that the school learning at home is not as busy a day as it is as learning in a school. We have all the subjects and the changing. So time is really used more efficiently in many of these places outside of school. So I hope that the idea of working through this crisis, dealing with leadership during a crisis, makes sense to you. This whole idea of shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, acceptance, preparation, because the preparation is what it's all about. So I hope this has been helpful. I want to suggest to you all that if you'd like to learn more about the transition success of the previous slide, that one that I just showed you, reach out to us at SPN. You can drop me an email. Be happy to respond and give you some thoughts and ideas about what the districts that do that kind of work. It's really important for us to develop that. I'll be developing another podcast, be coming out next week, that will kind of lead us to what are the kinds of strategies we need to be building into our system. So thanks so much listening through my thoughtful leadership for the new normal. I want to make sure that you all understand we're really mostly concerned with making sure you're all safe, your students are safe, and things are going well. So thanks very much. Enjoy the balance of your day.